this is Shane, and we are working with our voice lessons today. We're continuing on. Make sure that you have watched and practiced all of the before videos in our voice lesson series so that you know what we're talking about today. Today we are going to work on our range, or more specifically, we're going to work on paving through our head voice or from our chest voice to our head voice. Everybody has a chest voice, which is where we speak and we naturally sing in. And then we have our head voice, which is almost the voice that you were born with, okay? When we were younger, most of us sang higher. You know, a lot of us guys sang sopranos, soprano. But as we got older and puberty happened and changes happened and life happens, our voices tend to, settle down and they get lower, our range gets lower. But that doesn't mean that notes are still out of your range. It just means you kind of have to work on it sometimes. Now, if you're singing and all of a sudden you feel yourself straining or it's just not possible, then it's out of your range. And you should either flip up into your head voice, which we're going to talk about, or you shouldn't be singing that note, okay? So just remember that. If you're straining for a note, that's not how you sing, okay? So stop doing that. That's the key to know if it's out of your range, is if you have to strain to hit it, okay? But there are a few things that we can do to broaden our range and to work on that. So with that head voice, that's when we sing up, basically out of where we naturally sing, and up, and it's normally higher. So it's normally, if I, as a guy, I sing normally an octave lower than I play for you. So if I'm playing here, I normally sing here, right? But when I go, ah, that's my head voice that I'm using, okay? This is my chest voice because that's how I speak, right? I speak in that note, okay? But I'm up here singing for you today, right? That's my head voice, okay? So let's talk about the area between the chest voice and the head voice. Now, as always, we're going to approach it lightly. We're never going to hammer through it because that's when you can hurt yourself. But the way to get from our chest voice to our head voice is placement. Okay, is approach and placement. Now, first things first, when you're approaching higher notes, you should always pull down and support yourself. So you want to make sure you're grounded, okay? If a balloon is floating away from you, you're not going to push it up further. You're going to pull it down and try and grab a hold of it. So make sure that you're grounded and you're breathing properly and everything's nice and your head's here. You can't reach a note like this, right? You can only reach it from out here. So if you approach it with the full breath and you've got that going on and you've really relaxed your diaphragm and you're allowing your stomach to kind of, relax and poke out and you're really filling it up. And when you go for it, you want to ground yourself and go for it. But then you allow the air to float up and go past where you're normally singing, which is here. And then you want to let it float even further up into our acoustic space where it almost feels like it's buzzing around in our cheeks. So you want to give yourself almost a smile when you approach and you're covering the note. Remember, we talked about covering the note in in one of the other videos, okay? So you want to make sure that you're nice and grounded in your here, and then you want to lift here and let that air float up into your acoustic space and then into our head voice. So if I'm singing in my chest voice here, and then all of a sudden I went up here, then I'm gonna go ah ah. See what I did? Ah 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 ah. You do that. You go from ah to smiling ah. Ah 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 ah. Okay. Now, if look, the more I do it, the more I'm going to let it lift up here. I can feel it. I'm also pushing it, make sure it's staying in the front of my mouth. I'm not back here. That's hard, okay? But if I let it be light and loose and let it float in the front, then I can start gaining volume with that. Ah, ah, okay? And I'm just throwing it up and placing it. And the more that I work on that, the more it's going to gain. Now, if I'm feeling any kind of strain here, I'm going to stop singing and take note and realize what I'm doing wrong. Now, eventually, what it should turn into is air. As you run out of your range, it should just be, because air is where we're coming from. We shouldn't be singing from our throat, so it ends up going ah. No, it should be ha, 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 ha. And that's where it should end up being. Because it should always come from air, okay? So remember, like our other practice when we were getting our voice up in front, we did the ugly thing where we did, hey, we sounded like this, right? Well, that's kind of, you can also work that here. So you go, hey, so I'm approaching it light, but I'm adding some tone and I'm fitting it up here, hey, and then over time I can go, hey, 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 okay, so make sure, hey, right, and make sure that you're rising and that you're keeping it light and that you're placing it up here, okay? Now note, if we pull down and then place it up here, so we're gonna do kind of the opposite in your lower range. If you're wanting to hit lower notes, then you need to pull up a little bit, okay? Make sure you're not going ba, and you're going ba, so you're hitting it and getting off of it, okay? Instead of boring into it, okay? So you want to kind of lift a little bit. And you don't necessarily want to go back down into the back of your throat. You still want to keep it up in the front, but you also want to make sure that you're giving a nice full sound when you're down. So you're going to go, so you're going to lift up instead of going ba, you're going to go ba. Hear the difference? So I went ah instead of going ah, ah, ah. Okay, and notice as I get lower, I don't apply more. I kind of get off of it, just like I did at the top. Okay, you got to keep your approach light. Okay, adding more breath and more throat is not going to get you more notes. Take that note. It's going to be, you're going to sound worse out of your range. Okay, so if you're trying to broaden your range and get over your hump, you've got to work on your placement, which is here if you're going higher, and you've got to work on pulling down and making sure that you're supporting here, and you've got to make sure it comes from breath and not your throat, and you just want to work on paving. Okay, notice ha. It's not going ha. I'm not doing that. I'm not going ha. No. Okay, that's where it should eventually go to. Because it's breath that you're applying, not. That's not hitting it. And then I promise you that eventually you might hear a tone coming out of there if you keep working it, okay? So please be kind to yourself, keep singing, and work on your approach and your placement, and I'll see you next time. Bye.